In hardcore Nuzlocke, if Pokemon faints is considered dead, the level cap is the next leader's ace, no active items can be used in battle, and we play the games on set mode. But what if it went beyond that? What if it went across multiple games? Well, that, everybody, is why we're here. This is a Genlocke, the ultimate Nuzlocke challenge. In a Genlocke, we follow all of our normal hardcore Nuzlocke rules, but we take that across generation, thus the name. With our remaining championship team members going into a bag as eggs, the more games they get through, the more perks they get, and we're gonna see if we can make our way from Kanto all the way to Paldea. And I think the best place to start is at the beginning. If you aren't already, please make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment down below. The only way I'm gonna be able to grow as a creator is with all of your help, and I really appreciate any help you can give. But anyways, let's jump into Pokemon Red. And one last thing, if you're interested in knowing the exact rules of the challenge, they're in the description down below. Starting things off in Professor Oak's lab, we go ahead and grab a Bulbasaur and name him Edamame. Bulbasaur is by far the best Kanto starter for a Nuzlocke. He's bulky, has some good self-sustain, and is effective against a lot of the leaders. But we are not so lucky here against Rando in our first rival battle. It managed to get 2 crit scratches, and after growling us, I barely do any damage to this thing. But lucky for us, we don't have any Pokeballs yet, so we avoid losing. Since I have to worry about dupes across 9 different games, we are going to catch as few Pokemon as humanly possible. Before facing off against Brock, we go ahead and grab a Rattata, as well as a Nidoran male. After naming them Cheese and Pepper respectively, it's time for us to take on Brock and his bunch of burly rock boys. First he goes ahead and sends in his Geodude, and honestly I really don't need to do a play-by-play here. I picked Bulbasaur, everybody. You know exactly how this went. And after the fight, our Edamame goes ahead and evolves into Ivysaur. While fighting our way through Mount Moon, our Pepper goes ahead and evolves into a Nidorino. I grab a Helix Fossil, and then Pepper evolves again with a Moonstone into a Nidoking. We run into Rando again over on Nugget Bridge, where he's contemplating whether or not this 80s shoulder crop is working for him. My new fully evolved Pepper goes ahead and takes on his Pidgeotto, and we trade back and forth for a little while, but ultimately we do come out on top. Once Abra comes in, we go ahead and take care of it pretty quickly. And the same for his Rattata, although it does get a good enough hit in, forcing me to swap out into Cheese to face off against his Charmander. But after just a couple more rounds, we take down Rando, and we're moving on for our second gym battle. Before taking on Misty for our second badge, Cheese goes ahead and evolves into Eradicate. And now it's time for us to take on Misty and her water Pokemon. She starts off by sending in her Staryu, which we can go ahead and take down in just a couple of Vine Whips. And once Starmie comes in, it does manage to connect with one tackle, but after just 3 Vine Whips, we take it out, earning our Cascade badge. On the SS hand, we run into Rando again, who this time is showing a lot more confidence with his half shirt. He starts off by sending in Pidgeotto against our Cheesy Boy, but after just a couple of hits, we manage to take it down. His own Raticate comes out next, and we go ahead and burrow into the bottom of the sea, popping back up and doing a really cool trick before we take him down with a quick attack. His Kadabra comes out next, but I don't need a dark move to bite this thing in the face, KOing it in one shot. His Charmeleon comes in finally to throw some hands against us, but once again we go ahead and burrow to the bottom of the sea, coming up and squirting some water in his face, and with that, we defeat Rando. And that means now it's time for us to take on Lieutenant Surge in his really cool 8-bit Mohawk, and I'm pretty sure he just threatened to end our lives, but I guess that's besides the point right now. His Voltorb, Pikachu, and Raichu all go down in one shot apiece. And while his Raichu does get a pretty huge hit in with Thunderbolt, it doesn't stand a chance against the power of our Cheese. It's finally time for us to start adding some new members to the party, and we go ahead and grab a Growlithe and name him Beans, an Eevee named Peanut, and a Doduo named Drummy. We immediately go ahead and evolve Peanut into a Vaporeon, and Beans into an Arcanine. And now it's time for us to take on Erika and her grass Pokemon. Sending in Beans, we go ahead and get a couple of solid hits in with Ember before we get wrapped up, and I forgot how absolutely busted Wrap is in Gen 1. Afraid of a 5-turn Wrap now that I'm poisoned, we go ahead and switch into Cheese and immediately get crit down to just 14 HP. So we go ahead and swap into Drummy, who gets poisoned, but we're able to sweep her entire team with Drummy by spamming Fly, and with that, we earn our Rainbow Badge. We asked this guy in the casino what's so interesting about this poster, and it turns out there's a crime boss behind it, and he wants to battle. He starts off by sending in an Onix, which we can take out in one shot with our Edamame. And now I'm realizing I named my dog Beans, and Edamame is also a bean, but that also gives us time to take out the Rhyhorn. His ace Kangaskhan is able to take a couple of hits, and I honestly have so much nostalgia for these old sprites, but after just a couple of hits, we take it down, and with that, we're moving on to our next challenge. A bunch of ghosts. But before we can bust those ghosts, we go ahead and run into Rando one more time over in Pokemon Tower, where it appears that he's mourning the loss of his Raticate. Did I do that? I swear all I did was feign. His Pidgeotto comes in, but equipped with the power of gambling, we go ahead and use a Thunderbolt, KOing it in one shot. Execute proves to be his most powerful Pokemon, taking 3 whole hits to take down, while his Gyarados, Kadabra, and Charmeleon all get clowned out in one. And now we're free to explore the Ghost Tower. I wonder what kind of Pokemon are here. Oh, the only ghost Pokemon in this game. Nice. We go ahead and name our Ghastly Garlic, and then we meet Mr. Fuji, who's also an old ghost who lives in this tower. He gives us a flute and tells us to go wake up a Snorlax, so we go do that. And we name that Snorlax Muffin. While fighting our way through Silph Co, because the level progression in this version of the game is weird, Edamame goes ahead and evolves into Venusaur, and Garlic goes ahead and evolves into Haunter. And off camera, Drummy evolves into Dodrio. Before we get to the top floor, we go ahead and run into Rando. Fully embracing himself in his Kelly Kapowski cosplay, he goes ahead and challenges us to another battle, determined to beat us like he did the first time. He starts off by sending in his Pidgeot, and we go ahead and send in Pepper. After taking a little bit of damage from a Wing Attack, we go ahead and take him down in one Thunderbolt. After he sends in his Execute, we go ahead and swap into Drummy, as he goes ahead and sets up a Leech Seed on us. Once we descend from the skies, all it takes is a single fly to take him down. With his Gyarados coming in, we go ahead and use Tri Attack, doing some pretty massive damage to him with a crit and taking him down on a second one. Once the most overpowered Pokemon in Gen 1's existence comes in, we go ahead and swap out, setting in our Peanut. After taking a couple of confusions and getting a random move that we don't even use disabled, we take him down after a couple of hits, leading into his Charizard. After a Surf from us, Charizard manages to hold on with barely anything left, and after a second hit, we go ahead and take him down, defeating Rando yet again. And he storms off for a dramatic outfit change. At the top of Silph Co, we run into Giovanni, who's hanging out with the Silph president, and he looks a little nervous. And I'm pretty sure he's tied up and gagged. Or maybe it's just a really weird mustache. Giovanni's upset that we interrupted their meeting, and he goes ahead and challenges us to a battle. But lucky for me, I have the second most overpowered non-legendary Pokemon in Gen 1's existence. Garlic manages to absolutely run a train on the entirety of Giovanni's team. After defeating Giovanni, he spontaneously combusts, blasting off. Until next time. We then go ahead and untie the Silph president, who thanks us for saving him, and he rewards us with a Master Ball. Also, I don't know who this lady standing by the map is, but she's not tied up or gagged or anything like that, so she may be culpable in Team Rocket's crimes. But that's not my problem, and with Silph Co taken care of, it's now time for us to take on Sabrina and her psychic Pokemon. I start off by setting in Drummy up against her Kadabra, and I'm easily able to take out Kadabra, Mr. Mime, and Venomoth. Once Alakazam comes in, however, things take a turn for the worse. I tank a Psywave no problem, but after I miss my fly, I get crit with a Psybeam, and I lose my first Pokemon of the Genlocke. Honestly, I should have saw this coming. Alakazam is stupid overpowered in Gen 1, where special, attack, and defense are the same stat, and speed equals crit. Setting in Muffin for revenge, she goes ahead and sets up a Reflect, but after a couple of hits, we're able to take it out, earning our March Badge. Rip my beautiful drumstick. After that, we head over to Fuchsia City, where it's time to take on Koga, and I know that he's supposed to be balding, but he looks like he's wearing a weird bowler cap. But anyways, he's got poison Pokemon, setting in Coughing. With Garlic, his 2 Coughings, his Muck, and his Wheezing don't stand a chance, and with that, we've earned our Soul Badge. The second half of this game really just kinda happens, doesn't it? Heading over to Cinnabar Island, it's time for us to take on Blaine and his fire Pokemon. He starts off with his Growlithe, and we go ahead and send in Pepper. Equipped with Earthquake, none of his Pokemon really stand a chance against us. With his Growlithe, Ponyta, and Rapidash all going down in one shot. Once he sends an Arcanine, a takedown does absolutely massive damage to us, but then he actually KOs himself. And with that, we've earned our Volcano badge, and we are cruising along to Giovanni once again. The mysterious Viridian City Gym Leader has returned, and it's Giovanni. Oh my god, did you guys know this? The leader of Team Rocket, the biggest criminal organization across 2 different nations, is also a gym leader? Crazy stuff. Anyways, he starts things off with a Rhyhorn, and we're going to send in Peanut. And with the awesome power of water, we're able to sweep Giovanni's entire team with our Super Peanut Surf. And I'm really digging Vaporeon's Mohawk in this game. It's super cool. But it's time for us to head over to the Pokemon League. Over on Route 22, where I forgot to fight Rando the first time, he sees that we also have all 8 badges, and he's super surprised despite the fact that he's only beaten me once, and he will not stop talking about it. Sending in his Pidgeot, we go ahead and Thunderbolt him with Pepper, and I don't take it out on the first hit? That is insane! But the second one does manage to take him down. When his Rhyhorn comes in, we go ahead and use Earthquake, and we do manage to take it out in just one shot. Once Execute comes in, we go ahead and use Earthquake a couple of times, and it's left with like literally 1 HP. Come on, like, really, dude? But a third one manages to take it down. Gyarados is up next, and he does a lot of damage with Hydro Pump, but we're able to fire back with a ×4 Thunderbolt and take him down in just 1. Alakazam comes in next, so we go ahead and switch into our Muffin and go to set up an Amnesia, but then we still take a gigantic hit for nearly 150 points. Then we go ahead and swap into Peanut, where 2 Surfs are enough to take down the Alakazam. Charizard comes in just in time to get surfed and die, and now it's time for us to take on the Elite Four. Okay, everybody, now that we made our way all the way to the Elite Four, let's take a gander at our final team before we head in. First up, we have Edamame, the Venusaur, with Mega Drain, Sleep Powder, Leech Seed, and Cut. Then we have Muffin the Snorlax with Hyper Beam, Amnesia, Rest, and Strength. Pepper the Nidoking with Rock Slide, Surf, Earthquake, and Thunderbolt. Then we got Peanut the Vaporeon with Surf, Ice Beam, Acid Armor, and Bite. Garlic the Gengar with Psychic, Confuse Ray, Nightshade, and Hypnosis. And finally we got Beans the Arcanine with Ember, Roar, Bite, and Leer. First up is Lorelei and her Ice-type Pokemon. But she is just as much a Water and Psychic-type team because of the Pokemon distribution in Gen 1. And it's really making me realize that maybe like 300 Pokemon's the way to go. Lorelei wants to fight, sending out a Dugong as her first Pokemon, and we can go ahead and send in our Edamame. Now, even though this thing has Aurora Beam, I'm pretty confident that I can live at least 1 if necessary, but we go from Mega Drain on the first turn, doing about 50 or 60%, and it rests back up. And now it's time for us to take on Lorelei and her Ice Pokemon. But with the way type distributions work in Gen 1, it's more like an Ice/Water/Psychic team, where we do about 60% with our first Mega Drain. After that, it uses Rest, and after another couple of hits, we manage to take it out. Up next is her Cloyster, and once again, 2 Mega Drains take the bad boy down, while we tank an Aurora Beam pretty well. Out next is Slowbro, and we go for another Mega Drain, doing about 60% to it, and then it goes ahead and stacks up 2 Amnesias, and we switch over to Cut because we're getting a little low on our PP. Eventually, we decide to put it to sleep and Leech Seed it because the Amnesia is honestly getting a little too annoying. And then Lorelei heals up with a Super Potion, which is interesting for the Elite Four to have, but eventually I get tired of not killing this thing, so we go ahead and swap out. Once Muffin's in there, I go ahead and use Amnesia to raise my special, and then I let the Leech Seed take down the Slowbro. Out next is Jinx, and an Ice Punch does a crazy amount of damage to me despite the fact that I raised my special, but 1 strength is all it takes. Lapras comes out next, and it gets us a little bit below half, and the strength gets it to about 50%. Then I decide to drop all pretense, and I just go ahead and use Hyper Beam, taking it out and defeating Lorelei. Up next is Bruno and his Rocky Fighty Boys. He starts things off with his Onix, and we're able to take it out in just one Earthquake from our Pepper. When Hitmonchan comes in next, an Earthquake brings him way down into the red, and lucky for us, these punches are special, and he does basically nothing to us, following up with a Surf for the KO. When Hitmonlee comes in, one Earthquake takes it down, and again with his second Onix. Finally, as Machamp comes in, he goes ahead and uses a Focus Energy because of course that's the best thing for him to do right now, and two Earthquakes take down Bruno, and we're moving on to Agatha. Up next is Agatha and her Poison Ghosty team. She makes a comment about Professor Oak being super handsome when he was younger, but now he's just like an old duff. And honestly, I'm kind of with Agatha on this one, everybody. He's just walking around in his slippers. I know it's a cultural thing not to wear your shoes in the house, but he's technically at work. The match starts off Gengar versus Gengar, and her Gengar decides to try to use Dream Eater even though I'm not asleep, and we manage to take it down and two Psychics. Out next is her Golbat, and the implication of this sprite is that Golbat's mouth is like the size of a Dragonite, and that's always seriously bothered me. But it, Haunter, and Arbok all go down in one shot, leading into her final Gengar, who also tries to use Dream Eater on me. I really don't know what the plan was here, but we've defeated Agatha, and it's time for us to move on to our final challenge of the Elite Four. We approach Lance the Dragon Master in his chambers. Once I defeat him, I will be crowned the first Pokemon champion in years. Nice cape, by the way. He starts off by sending in his Gyarados, and we send in our Peanut. He goes for a couple of Dragon Rages, but honestly, Vaporeon's health pool is absolutely bonkers, and we take him out in a couple of Ice Beams. Out next is Dragonair, and we manage to get a crit, KOing it in just one Ice Beam. And the same thing with his second Dragonair. Up next is Aerodactyl, who manages to do a massive amount of damage with a takedown, but we get lucky enough to get the Oko on him. When his Dragonite comes in, we're going to go ahead and swap out, sending in Garlic as he goes ahead and raises his defense. After we put him to sleep, we just start spamming Nightshade, and we get him down way into the red. Sleep is another super broken thing in Gen 1 because you have to waste a turn waking up, so it actually lasts one turn longer than it really does. Anyways, after he heals up, we switch over to spamming Psychic, which we probably should have done in the first place, and we manage to take him down, and with that, we defeat Lance. So why isn't this Ugg-wearing, cape-having, bomber jacket, Vegeta-looking guy not giving me my championship? Wait, hold on, Rando was already here? In the Champions Chamber, we meet up with Rando, who's doing a pretty good Lance cosplay, except Lance wouldn't give him his cape, even though now technically Rando was his boss. He tells us that he's impressed that we made it this far, and he's ready to test our skills and see if we're worthy. But like, dude, I've beaten you every single time we fought except the first one, and that one didn't even count because we didn't even have Pokeballs yet. Anyways, he starts things off with his Pidgeot, and we send in Peanut. An Ice Beam manages to take it down in one shot, which is going to lead into his Alakazam. A Surf does about 60% damage, and a Psychic gets a crit, getting us down to about 50%, but another Surf takes it down. When his Rhydon comes in, we can go ahead and take it out in just one Surf, but once Exeggutor comes in, we need to switch into our Bean Boy. Off screen, I taught Bean's Fire Blast because I'm not sure why I hadn't done that yet, and we get it down to about 25% in one shot. After getting the ever-living crap stomped out of us and a bunch of pineapples thrown at us, we managed to take the big boy down. Out next is his Gyarados, which means we're going to swap into Edamame. A Hyper Beam does a little bit more than 50% to us, and a Mega Drain does basically nothing. Realizing that we made a huge mistake, I go ahead and swap over into Muffin, and he goes for another Hyper Beam, doing really great damage. I fire back with a Hyper Beam of my own, and I bring it down so far into the red that at first I didn't even see he had anything left. I then swap over into Garlic, where a Hydro Pump does some pretty decent damage to us, but a Psychic takes down the big guy. With Charizard as his only remaining Pokemon, I go for a Psychic on Garlic, getting a crit, bringing him down to just 25%, and a Fire Blast comes in, bringing us down pretty low. But not low enough, buddy. and one more Psychic absolutely annihilates Rando's final Pokemon. And with that, we become the Kanto League champions, and the first leg of our journey is complete. And our next stop, a little place I like to call Sinnoh. I know that Johto is literally the next stop as far as the Pokemon games are concerned, but I'm just going to be playing one game from each region, and we're going to be moving on to Pokemon Platinum. And I'll be tackling Hard Gold after that. But if you liked the video, please make sure you show your support by liking the video, sharing it, commenting, subscribing, all that other fun stuff. I'm going to be putting out another episode of the Genlocke every couple of weeks in between my other Nuzlocke runs. So you'll want to make sure you don't miss any of those. But thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya. Oh, and one final thing. If you want to see our rules, encounters, our perks, and our egg bank, you can check all that stuff out in the description down below. I'm going to have a Google Doc linked with all the necessary information for the Genlocke as we move through the games. But if this is your first episode you're watching and there are multiple out, maybe you don't want to spoil yourself. So, this is your warning. All right, this time I'm really leaving. See ya.